Hi, I'm Scott Frost, and this is my story of Flip the Script. Well, my chapter is called Black Belt Negotiations, and the reason that I decided to write the chapter is that it talks about things that people don't think about, where a lot of people try to do the exact same thing in negotiations that everyone else does. And what I learned as a black belt in karate is that you don't have to do what everybody does. And some of the stories that I always heard was of famous masters where two masters would be face to face with each other, and they would be looking at each other, and people would be waiting for them to attack each other, and they would never attack, and they would wait. And it could be minutes, it could be hours, it could be even days. And then finally there would be a moment where the attack would come. And so what I tried to do was I took that particular philosophy and I applied it to negotiations. And so I had a situation where I had a client who had been exposed to a toxic substance for 30 years, and the company didn't want to accept any responsibility. And so when the company lawyer called and they said, well, what will it take to get this case resolved? And I said, well, the family wants a lot of money. And he said, well, what's a lot of money? You know how this works. And I said, well, you know, my client, he's not a used car. And so I'm not going to tell you what I think it's worth. You're going to have to go to the company and tell them that we want a lot of money. And it was very frustrating to him because he was like, well, wait a minute, this is not the way it works. We give a demand, we go back and forth, and then we resolve this. And I said, well, that's just not the way it's going to work in this situation. And so then for the next 6 months or so, he would call me almost every single week and ask me to put a number on my client's life. And I refused to do it. And eventually those calls, he would start offering me money and more and more. And eventually he said, you know what, Scott, we're at the end of this. I had to go all the way to the CEO of the company, and this is all they have. And I said, well, you know, if you went to the CEO of the company, let me talk to the family. And I went and I talked to the family, and they said, you know what, if the CEO is involved, that means that we got their attention, and maybe this won't happen to other people. And so that was the reason why I wrote this chapter, was I wanted people to know that you don't have to approach negotiations as a back and forth. You can be creative and do different things. My father passed away from cancer, and it was very personal, as everybody's story of cancer is. But my father was exposed to toxins at the workplace, and what we do every day is we help hardworking families get the justice that they deserve. And so for my father, I thought it was important that we tell these stories and that people know that you can't be disposable and that people's lives do matter. I think it's important to work with somebody who knows a lot about negotiations, and I've been a practicing lawyer for over 30 years, but you can always learn something new. And so through the practice of reading not only his book, but through the process of going through writing this chapter, it really helped me crystallize what my philosophies are on negotiations, and have helped determine how we go about negotiations in my law firm. Well, I hope people take away that you can't really judge a book by its cover. And why do I say that? Well, I can tell you a perfect story. I was picking a jury, and on the jury there was a person who was an insurance adjuster. And traditionally in my work, when somebody's an insurance adjuster, they actually aren't the most forthcoming people as to helping other people, such as my clients. But this insurance adjuster, she was a little different, and for some reason I thought maybe she isn't what we think she is. And so I asked her questions. I mirrored her statements. I asked her things that would make her think, and then I would judge her reactions, her body language. And after that interaction, I felt, you know what? I think she'll give us a fair shake. And all we want is a fair shake in what I do. And it turned out that she did. And not only did she give us a fair shake, but she was one of the people that were really an advocate for our side, and that my client deserved all the compensation that they were seeking. I think that a book like this is very important in that what it does is it allows you to take ideas from a lot of different people a lot of different businesses and try to apply them to what you do. And that's what I try to do each and every day, is learn a little something, learn a little bit from Chris Voss, learn from the other authors, and then apply it. Hi, I'm Scott Frost, and this is my story of Flip the Script.